Alright guys, welcome to another video. Today we have what I think are the two very best budget BMWs you can buy. In my opinion, they represent the absolute best combination of sportiness and daily driver in one package. So on the right here we have a E46 generation 330i ZHP, and on the left is of course my personal E39 generation 540i M-Sport. So of course the 330i is the smaller car here, being a 3 Series, and it's got a 3-liter inline 6 pushing about 235 horsepower, and the 540i has a 4.4-liter V8 pushing around 290 horsepower. Both of these cars can comfortably seat 4 people or even 5 people if you get the sedan version of this. This one of course is a coupe. And manual transmission, 6-speed, rear-wheel drive. I want to show you guys why I think both of these cars are undervalued on the market today. Alright guys, so we're in the 540i. This is my buddy Sarang, as you might remember. He has an NSX, he had a C55 AMG that we reviewed a while back, and the Mini Cooper S, and he also owns the 330i ZHP now. So yeah, third time back on the channel. Since he's owned the 330i for a while, I've owned the 540i for about a month now. We want to kind of trade off and get each other's impressions on what it's like to drive these two budget BMWs. I will first of all include a card, because that's the only way you can put like annotations in YouTube now apparently, to the video I did on why I bought the 540i. So the card's going to be up here. But a little bit about the car. So it's a 2003 E39 generation 540i M-Sport. So of course only about 1,265 I think were made for the US, all in 2003. How you can tell it's an M-Sport, it's got the M-Tech front bumper, rear bumper, the bigger single exit exhaust tip. You get these, M-badged parts, the steering wheel. In terms of engine, it's completely the same as the base 540i. But you do get a slightly shorter final drive. You get stiffer springs, and you get the specific 18-inch M parallel wheels is what they're called. So essentially, it's a performance package of the 540i. It doesn't radically change the car in my opinion, but it's all these little parts that add up to kind of add a nice little aesthetic flair to the car and make it handle a little bit better than your base 540i. And as you can probably tell, Sarang is in third gear at 2,000 RPMs, and it's got more than enough torque. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was riding with him earlier, and he was definitely pushing it a little bit, and man, the traction control light was just flickering non-stop. I mean, this thing really does not have a whole lot of rear traction.
We talked about comparing this to the ZHP, and a few things come to mind instantly. Number one being like everything in this car just feels like daily first, fun second.
Yeah.
Whereas in the ZHP, it sort of feels fun first, daily second.
Right.
But they're very close together in that car too.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is like immediately when I got in this car, I noticed how lightweight the clutch pedal feels.
Yeah.
The ZHP is not my first 3 Series. I also had a E90 335, and that also had kind of like a little heavier clutch.
Okay.
The ZHP's clutch is a little bit heavier. And they also have like what I consider typical BMW clutch engagement, where it comes up towards the top of the travel.
Right. Riding in this car as a passenger for the first time, I will say I do move around a lot. Like I do have to hold on to the oh shit handle here, like the door handle to stay in place. I mean, this car has the comfort seats. Either they were a factory option for the 540i, or they are out of a 7 Series. I don't know what the correct answer is. Maybe you guys can tell me. But they don't hold me in for shit. Like, I am moving around a lot.
And that's a good second point here, right? About it being a good daily. Like,
yeah.
I could sit in these seats all day.
Yeah.
But back
They're
here,
so comfortable.
We're like flying around. Whereas, the ZHP has really good bolstering.
Yeah, I mean, I love these seats for daily driving. I mean, I drove this car all the way to Oakland and back yesterday, and I was in 100% comfort the whole time. Had the heated seats going, and yeah, it's great. But out here, it's not really meant for, lateral G's. How about like the steering, the shifter, the pedals?
Yeah, so the steering is interesting. At very low speeds and higher speeds, it feels a little bit floaty. I mean, to use a non-technical term.
It's not a traditional rack and pinion steering rack. It's like a recirculating ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it just sucks off center. Like even on the highway, sometimes I'll just be driving it, and then I'll just notice the car slightly pulling to one side, even though the steering wheel is still, you know, centered.
The other thing is like the throttle response is basically non-existent.
Yeah. So I want to touch a little bit on that because after a month of driving this car, in terms of driving dynamics, it is what I expect. I mean, it's a big, heavy car with a big V8. It's floaty, it's soft, and whatever. But I don't know why the throttle response is just so dull. I mean, there is a significant lag before the throttle even starts going up. And when it does when it does start to actually rev up, it does so very slowly, and that's probably just due to a heavy flywheel, which makes sense. But I just don't understand why there's such a delay between that when you push the pedal and when it starts responding. It is an electronic, it is drive-by-wire, so that could probably be why. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
It's not even just annoying for canyon driving. Even in daily driving, when I just want to do a blip downshift, I have to literally floor the gas just to get it to rev up 1,000 RPMs. Just frustrating.
Both the E46 and E39 generations, in my opinion, are some of the best looking BMWs.
I think it's probably the golden era of BMW design.
Yeah, definitely.
And like an E30, obviously, I mean, that's a great looking car, but it looks old as shit, like, let's be real. Whereas, like, I don't think this car or the E46 is going to look like old per se in another 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's actually funny you say that, because like at work, you know, we were going out to lunch with some coworkers, and they got in the car and they're like, "Oh wow, so you got a new job and you bought this nice car?" I'm like, "This car is cheaper than your car, guaranteed."
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, people don't like associate it with it being older.
Right. And that brings up another good point. Is I think both of these cars are undervalued right now.
Oh yeah.
To some extent, I think the M-Sport is more so because only 1,265 were made.
Yeah.
Versus around, I think the number is like 9,000 or somewhere around that ballpark for the ZHP. Yeah, you can get one of these cars for somewhere in the vicinity of 10 grand with a little over 100,000 miles. And for that money, I honestly don't know what would be a better car enthusiast daily driver. Because like for me, I'm not looking for something super hardcore sporty because I already have two sports cars, the S2000 and the NSX. So I just want something that would still put a smile on my face, but also be really good as a daily driver, and this fits the bill perfectly. I can't think of another car that fits the bill better than this one.
Yep.
Reliability issues aside. So we're not going to go too much into detail on that. For me, like this car's maintenance history was seriously impeccable. And like the suspension in this car, even though it is stiffer than the base 540i, I've never driven a base 540i, so I can't comment on that. But it feels soft. I mean, this is not a sports car. It's not going to be flat through the corners. You're going to feel very dramatic weight transfer at any speed corner if you're pushing it anywhere close to its limit. Like, I like that. I like the feeling the weight transfer because it kind of tells me what the car is doing. And like, so if the rear end is about to step out, it'll give me plenty of advance notice. And of course, it's also more comfortable for daily driving that way. So it's no GTR. I mean, R35 GTR weighs the same as this, but it's gonna just destroy this car in every measurable performance aspect. But I would argue that this car is like a better daily driver. It's more refined. It's more fun as an analog driving experience.
I think I agree 100%. It's one of the best dailies you can get for an enthusiast.
As long as you're okay with 17 miles per gallon.
Yeah, fuel economy aside, this or, you know, the ZHP also comes in a sedan.
Right.
But unless you swap the diff, you'll miss torque.
You'll miss torque, yeah.
Because you really have to rev the ZHP motor out.
All right, guys, so now let's jump into the ZHP. I'll be driving, and I'll give my impressions on that car. All right, guys, so we're now in the 330 Ci ZHP, and honestly, it feels really familiar. Obviously, the interior design is very similar. It's got the same kind of 3-spoke steering wheel. Mine also has a ZHP shift knob just like this one, and material quality very, very similar. But I will say that just even right when I hop into the car, the clutch actually feels heavier in this car than it does in the 540i, which I don't know why that is, because you would think with a V8 with more torque, you would need a heavy-dutier clutch, and the throttle response is just a night and day difference with this thing. Is it also drive-by-wire?
It is, yeah. It is. Yeah, I think all the E46s are, but someone might need to fact check that.
Okay.
So it should be a little bit more aggressive.
That's just way more responsive. Oh, and the steering just feels so much more direct as well. I guess just because it's a rack and pinion setup, that makes a difference. Like the most minute little direction change on the steering wheel, you get the same output from the front tires. Whereas in my car, there is definitely a dead zone. Okay, so there's the difference right there, the torque. It just doesn't have nearly as much, even with the taller final drive, or the shorter final drive. So what is this final drive again? Is it the 3-point?
It's a 3.38.
Okay.
Basically taken out of a regular automatic 330i or 330ci. I think they both have the same. Stock is a 3.07.
Okay, it's about 10%.
Yeah, and that's for a ZHP, but the stock manual 5-speed 330s are actually 2.93, I believe. So they did try to shorten it a little bit to help with acceleration, but I think they could have gone a little bit shorter, and they should have just used the 3.38.
Yeah, this feels good. The gearing's nice and short. It keeps the engine in the power band. Yeah. Being a ZHP, it red lines at 6,800 instead of 6,500.
Yeah.
It's definitely no S2000 or other Honda, but you do have to rev it out to get the power. So plus 10 horsepower, right, for the ZHP package. So 235, like plus 8 foot-pounds of torque. Like 220.
Yeah, it's like something. 222, I think.
22. Yeah. So 500 pounds lighter than my 540, and I definitely feel in corners. I mean, just the direction changes. It changes direction so much more eagerly. This car's a lot more confidence-inspiring. Yeah, fuel toe's nice and easy. So you've got the second gear acceleration. Oh, that's a nice sound.
Right.
Straight 6. I mean, even though, V8s are awesome and everything, but something about a BMW naturally aspirated straight 6, it has that like nice, refined, smooth, metallic feel and sound to it, which even a V8 cannot. Oh my god, I cannot see anything. Okay. Yeah, it just sounds so nice. Oh man, that's nice. It really rewards you when you rev it out.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Exactly.
Like the V8, you always know it's a V8. There's big torque down low. You can hear that kind of V8 burble. The straight 6 is kind of more subdued. When you're driving around, it just kind of sounds like you're almost like not even sure what kind of engine it is. But then when you rev it out, there's no question it's a straight 6. The 540i obviously has oodles more low-end torque, but this doesn't really lack torque. It's just in comparison to that.
Right.
It feels less torquey, but even at low RPMs, like 1,500, 2,000 RPMs, if you want to accelerate, it will definitely do so. Yeah, these tires are shit.
Dude, they're so bad.
This is one of those cars that just has, in my opinion, the perfect suspension setup for a daily drivable, like, canyon car. My 540 is definitely a daily driver focused suspension setup. And when I drove it through these canyons, I was just not having a whole lot of fun. I mean, it's fun in the way that's like, it's almost comical. Like, you're driving a 3,800 pound family sedan and you're like rolling all over the place and you have a huge V8 you're trying to tame. That part's fun, but like this car is fun in the way that a sports car is fun. Like you feel connected, you feel everything through the steering, it's nice and quick. The gear change is nice, the throttle response is excellent, and the suspension setup follows the overall theme of that, which is to say that this is a little bit more towards the sporting side of that kind of equation. The traction control is definitely a little bit intrusive.
Yeah. We can turn it off, but not bad.
The car just has a really nice balance to it. It's not a car that really makes me laugh with or giggle with joy, because there's nothing really that funny about it. It's just a serious sports coupe.
Yeah. Just gets the job done.
Yeah, it gets the job done. It does everything right, nice and tidy. Whereas a 540i, when I drive that thing hard, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna die at any second. At the end of the day, the fact that you can get this car for like 8, 9, 10 grand in reasonable shape, damn, that is a bargain for something like this.
And especially like something where if you're like tight on a budget or don't want to put a lot of money into a car, like this versus the M3, because the motor in this car is actually pretty old. Like I think it was in the E36 cars too.
Oh, was it?
I think so. It's the M54. Okay. I know the Z3s had them. Parts are relatively cheap. All the parts that were like poorly engineered to begin with are now like there's good aftermarket parts. So you know it's a lot cheaper to maintain, and it doesn't need valve adjustments all the time.
Right. Oh man, the way the back rotates, it's fun. But I think the reason why these haven't picked up as much steam lately with the enthusiasts compared to the 540i M-Sport, in my opinion, is because the E36 M3 exists. Because you can buy those for under 10 grand all day, and they make a better kind of track car, if that's what you're looking for. And the E46 M3 have fallen to the point where you can pick those up for 15 grand. So this car kind of sits right now in like almost like no man's land.
Right.
Unless you're the type of person like yourself who wants the comfort and refinement of the E46 generation, but you still want to have some of the more raw driving dynamics without going full on M3. Right. So what are the common issues that you have to look for with these cars? Let's talk about that.
So common things you want to look for on the E46 is the cooling system, mainly the hoses. You want to make sure that the water pump was changed too, and rear trailing arm bushings, the front control arm bushings, the control arm bushings.
Okay.
Suspension in general, around 60 to 80K usually goes bad.
Okay. The shocks?
The shocks.
Okay.
Vanos, mine's rattling a little bit, so you want to get that checked out.
So compare that to the 540i. Yeah, all the bushings pretty much. The Vanos seals, various gaskets around the engine tend to leak oil. The front control arms tend to go out pretty quickly. And then the big thing is the timing chain guides, because apparently they're made of plastic and they are pretty much guaranteed to go roughly around 150,000 miles. All the common issues with the 540i's are really well documented. So there really aren't any surprises as long as you do your research.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, like, when I said typical BMW, I was like also referring to the gaskets, valve cover gasket, oil pan gasket, oil filter housing gasket, and then Vanos seals and Vanos as mentioned.
So to make a long story short, I think nothing is surprising about the fact that the 330i is a smaller, nimble, more fun to drive car, and the fact that the 540i is a better daily driver. I mean, it really is what it seems like on paper. So apologies if nothing in this video exactly enlightened you on anything that was like unexpected. After driving these cars back to back, I think we can both pretty comfortably say that is the case.
Yeah, definitely.
And that being said, I mean, these cars are both awesome. They're both really fun to drive in their own way. And as a daily driver, you can't really go wrong with either of them. It just depends on how far on the pendulum you want to swing with respect to like the comfort versus the sportiness aspect of it.
Right.
My prediction though is in the next 5 to 10 years, both cars will go up in value given the same mileage condition and everything.
Right.
I think the M-Sports will go up higher simply because I think they have an even more timeless design. This is personally my opinion, but an even more timeless design than the ZHP, and of course they were made in much smaller quantities.
And to add to that, I think what will also help is like all the M3s and the E39 M5 prices going up. Well, as they get further away from this starts to become like the better option.
Yeah,
for people budget.
Are on a budget, right? That's a good point. All right, guys. So I hope you guys found this video useful. The reason I even made this video is because I was cross-shopping these two cars at some point, and I didn't see really anything comparing the two. At least not on YouTube or anything.
Right.
So if you guys are cross-driving these cars, I hope that helps. Like I said, 330i, better driver's car, 540i, better daily driver. That's really all there is to it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you rather have a 330i ZHP or a 540i M-Sport? And let me know what other cars you want to see in the future, if there's any comparisons that you're dying to know about. I'll do my best to film those, and I'll see you guys next time.